Hello there. Welcome back to another episode of Unspoken Reality Podcast. And in this episode, we are going to talk about something relatively new, but we are still following on with the trajectory of self improvement. So, not that new. This episode, we are going to talk about riding the waves. But before we get to that, as it has become a habit of ours, a little recap from the last episode. And this one, I do it based on a screenshot that I took from something on TikTok, and it's in relation to application knowledge, and I thought it relates and it sums up everything that we were talking about really well. So here it goes. It says, see, you can parade stoic wisdom around like a pair of designer shoes, but if you panic at every Wi-Fi outage, you are essentially a philosopher's contract holding wisdom you never wear. Instead of actively applying the knowledge you learn, you are just passively consuming it, turning what could be a powerful life changing process into mere entertainment. Reading books and listening to podcasts feels productive. You feel like you are growing just by understanding these new ideas. But after all these episodes and chapters, what have you actually changed? What lessons have you applied to your own life? Researching gives you this false sense of productivity and accomplishment. You feel like you're making progress, but it reaches a point where you are just chasing the same dopamine hits a doom scroller would. The path you thought you were on was only ever a treadmill. Chances are you're still the same person you were 5 books ago. You finish one book feeling inspired, but soon enough that sense of progress wears off and you crave a new fix, a different perspective, a fresh hack that promises to unlock the next level. But that's the trap. The pursuit itself becomes the goal. There is always another version of ourselves to upgrade. They are built on a fundamental paradox of the human psyche, the endless chase for more. Instead of reaching a finish line, we are caught in an endless loop of chasing self betterment, never quite arriving. And ironically, this constant striving is what keeps us hooked, feeding off the hope that one more book, one more strategy will be the one that finally changes everything. So, what's my point? I'm not quite suggesting another 1933 book banning, but what we need to do is stop treating self help like a buffet. You don't need another wealth strategy book. You don't need to follow another motivational TikTok page. You need application. Just one idea put into practice consistently. Forget the next book or podcast. Take one principle you already know and commit to it for a month or longer. The life you envision is hidden behind the actions you keep postponing. No amount of theory can break that barrier. Nothing changes if nothing changes. I think that was a very good perspective. Let me try to see if I can find the handle of the one that wrote this. I just took screenshots. User 41766 something. Yeah, and how he or she is breaking it down is quite intriguing, and some of us podcasters have even been hit that you're not just supposed to be going after the next podcast. No, what you need is application. And I agree with that, because if you heard the first episode, which was our trailer episode, we are not here necessarily just to give you hacks, to give you tips on. Yes, we are giving you tips on self improvement, but is not what you are revolving around. Basically, we want to give you all the information that you need to apply. And I believe up to this point, we have given you a majority of that. So all you need to do is to apply. So we are here. The same insights that we give you is the same insights that I personally tend to apply in my life. And as I had said in the first episode, after we do that, we apply, we then come back and try to evaluate, did what we apply work? Did it make sense? Is there a need to change the strategy? And that is basically the whole essence of this podcast. We talk about problems, but we talk about the solutions, and after that we evaluate the solutions that we have implemented, right? So I think that one is the best recap I can ever do for the last episode. And just get into action. Try to reduce the distance between the knowledge that you consume and the knowledge that you apply. Once you reduce that distance and you make it effortless, then you improve your capacity and your capability in all aspects of life generally. Yep. So let's get into today's episode. I hope to take a short time. I've been saying that in the last previous episodes, two or three, and I end up going beyond the mark that I've put. But let's see. Let's see where we'll get after this episode, right? So in this episode, basically, we are talking about riding the waves, and this one is coming from a literal perspective, right? The people that ride waves as a sports, it's even in the Olympics, and from a figurative perspective, because in human existence, there has been waves that have changed how people live. And so we are going to look at some of the causes of the waves that have happened so far and how you're supposed to react to it. So for us start, I'd like to start by defining what a wave is. And just from a dictionary, basically, you can call a wave a disturbance that travels through a medium. And how we know a wave to be, it's basically the movement of the water surface, wind blowing through it, and then it changes how the water surface is. And that's the definition. The definition that we are going to go with is a disturbance. It's something that is perhaps not normal. Yes, it's expected in the oceans, but when it happens in the existence of human beings, you can call it an anomaly, something that's abnormal in a way because it's not what is expected, right? And so, how we are going to look at it in a structured manner, there has been several major events in human existence that can be termed as waves. And this one is basically how human evolved from, I'm not talking about evolution in the sense of a simple to a highly intelligent creature, but perhaps in the sense of the social dynamics. And this one was changed by the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution. We also talked about the scientific revolution, where there was some bit of scientific innovations with all these great thinkers like Albert Einstein, talk of my favorite Nikola Tesla. There is Thomas Edison, and the rest that pioneered that age of scientific discoveries. We can also talk about the information and digital age that permeated the 19s to the 1945 there to the 2000s up to where we are right now. And at this point in time, we are seeing the development of a new age that we can call, is it's not the information age. I'll just remember, because now we are now transitioning into a different age. I think it's the intelligence age, whereby we are seeing artificial intelligence in most spheres of life, and people are trying to adopt it the way they just adopted technology and computer and digitalization. Is it digitalization or digitization? Whichever, man. So that one, how people adopted it, and now we are seeing people trying to adopt AIs into their businesses. We are seeing all these chatbots in every website that you go to, and it's a revolution on its own, and it's an intelligence revolution. That's the age that we are living in, and it's permeated by AI and automation, right? So we can call this one a wave because it's going to change how people live. It's going to change the jobs, how you do your jobs, starting from working from home and having AI doing 50% to even a point whereby forecasting tells us that it's going to do, if not 100% of our tasks, then maybe 90 thereabout, because you are now having talks about ethics in AI and universal basic income, which is going to be a thing. And for those that don't know what that is, universal basic income basically means, sorry for the double positive, it basically means that you're going to be paid just to exist. And this is going to be the role of the government. I'm not sure about the Kenyan government, but yeah, we're in a point whereby AI is doing 100% of the jobs. And no one is employed, only just a few people. But I believe AI, when we talked of super intelligence, where the AI has the cognizant abilities of a human being, it can self-correct, then basically there is no need to man an AI, because it will just be working with the script and self-correcting where it makes errors. So when we talk about 100% AI doing jobs, then you are going to need money for survival, and that's what we call universal basic income, whereby the government just pays you so that you can buy the necessities. But if all goes well and we eliminate greed, we eliminate corruption, then we are looking at a future whereby AI is going to do the menial tasks for us, and it's going to lead the world into economic prosperity if greed is eliminated. But if not, then we are going to see countries that have super AIs dominating the developing countries, in the lack of a better word, and it's going to be a repeat of the cycle all over again. Anyway, that's not the point. I digress. So we are talking of waves as a disturbance that travels through a medium, and you're talking about it in the human aspect as basically a disturbance, an anomaly, things being different. And one skill that you need to learn when waves come is how you ride the wave. A wave should not catch you unawares. There is something that surfers normally call the big one. You know, in Olympics, people, it's a sport, as I have mentioned earlier, and people are normally graded, for lack of a better word, because yeah, it's a sport like any other. And most surfers normally wait for the big wave. This one is, they call it the big one. It's a wave that is unusually large, and it's thrilling and rewarding. It gives you a rewarding surfing experience. And most Olympians in this sport are awarded based on how high the wave was and how better they navigated that wave, and if they showed new maneuvers that have never been done before. Yeah, among many other things. From waves, there's something we call wave selection, by the way. You should know the wave that you are going to ride. You don't just ride any other wave, because there are those waves that persists, that can stay for a long time. For example, the internet was a wave that persisted, and we know one of the name Jeff Bezos that became an icon by deciding to ride that wave that persists for a lifetime. Because if I recall the story well, I'm not well versed with the story of these billionaires and world changers. I think I should be. I'll try to find a schedule to acquaint myself with such. But the little that I know is that committed, he quit his job and he committed to riding this wave called the internet, because based on his foresight, the internet was going to be a game changer. And he decided to ride that wave. And we can say that basically his intuition and his foresight was 100% accurate. And so you should know which waves you're going to choose to ride. You don't just ride any other wave. I'd say that is true for me, because here in Kenya, there has been this wave of the iCoin, and there's some people that got money out of it. I know of one that got 16K. There is also, now we are hearing about the human coin. On a personal note, I'm not really interested in some of this short-term money or just quick money. Even if it's legit, I normally feel hesitant to pursue such. Well, I can say it's a personal preference, but if it's something that can get you money and it's legit, just hop on it. As long as it's legit and you're not doing anything illegal, I don't see anything wrong with it. But it's good also to be shrewd about it and to Don't just go riding a wave emotionally. You are following the bandwagon of people that are hopping on it. No, try to think for yourself and try to do your own research and forecast how these things are going to uh, affect life in the near future, 5 or 10 years maybe. And if it's something that is going persist, then you can bank on it. You know, and this one really showcases how forecasting is an important skill to have. Being able to forecast the trajectory of the world. How does the geopolitics that you are currently in um, affect the aspects of our lives? Talk of the war in Ukraine and the negotiations that is going about here in Africa. How is the diplomacy of Kenya affecting our livelihoods? Just recently, we've heard that South Sudan, or is it Sudan, have they have banned imports of tea leaves, and we as Kenyans normally we normally export most of our tea to Sudan. But because of the diplomacy fail that was done, whereby Kenya accepted rebels at the KICC, in a way it has affected the diplomatic relation that we had with Sudan. And so they have banned our tea. So this kind of geopolitics, in a way, it's a wave, and there are waves that persist and there are waves that don't. And also, there's a difference between a tide and a wave, geographically speaking. Is it geographically? I don't know. Because a tide is long term, and we know a tide is affected by the gravitational pull of the moon. And so this one is rather long term. And a wave is a bit short term phenomena, but here I'm using them rather interchangeably because riding the waves is the word that is mostly used to describe how things, the dynamic nature of life, how it changes and how people adapt to the change. Because you can either drown in a wave can come and you are rendered jobless. Like COVID-19 was a wave. But we know of the statement, or rather of the news that went about talking of COVID billionaires. Who are those people that rode that wave like that? Hmm? There is one that hesitated and decided to now go into the business of selling masks, perhaps out of bad luck a day before the ban was lifted. Like here in Kenya, imagine you're someone that has just bought a stock, let's say 100K, though that's a lot of masks, but I'm exaggerating the figures here. So imagine someone has bought 100,000 masks and he's like, now I'm going to sell this mask. He made, perhaps during the period, he was just like sitting down, making calculations. And the day that is just now that he wants to hit the market, the no travel ban is lifted, or rather the masks not being mandatory everywhere unless maybe in public places or places where people congregate. So now the demand for masks decreases, and you've bought all this stock. This is someone that hesitated to ride the wave. So you really need to be creative about it. You really need to know how to go about it before that time for riding that wave elapses. And so basically, what I really wanted to share with you when it comes to riding waves is understanding, identifying opportunities, and being able to analyze and take action. How do you identify an opportunity? How do you know that this is a wave that can be ridden? Is it ridden? English nowadays fails me. A wave that can be ridden for a long time. This one has been for quite a while talk of sustainable development goals, and we've seen youth chapters trying to embrace it in everything that they do. You see a startup, they're saying we are aligning ourselves to SDGs. There are those that try to do all the 17 SDGs. And there are others that will say, no, our SDGs, perhaps I like SDG 1 that talks about no poverty. If there is a way that you can come up with an idea that will uplift your community economically, well, I'm here for it, because I believe all of us should be able to have that purchasing power. We should be able at least to purchase the basic needs, take our children to school, and just live a happy, fulfilling life. When we eradicate poverty, because poverty has been weaponized, someone is not educated, and we see these politicians trying to use that as a tool to push their political campaign. Because this is just an observation. When you see a political rally and you try to get the demographics of the people, most people above the poverty line are on the other side of the tent. They're the politicians. But the other people that are in the sun for all those hours listening to nonsense that appeals to their emotion, because at the end of the day they are going to be given 50 shillings or a kg of unga. These are people that are somehow beyond the poverty line. Because I tend to believe if someone is intellectually capable, is smart, is working on something, the likelihood of you finding them in these political rallies is going to be slim to none. That's what I honestly believe. And so you see that poverty has been weaponized in a way. Anyway, I'm digressing. I'm just trying to say how some people align to SDGs, and I'm talking about SDG 1, which is now poverty. But you get the point. There's also been a wave of women empowerment. That this one has been on for quite some time. And if you're a woman listening to this, find a way that you can capitalize on that wave, because as it is as of now, 20 to 25, it is very easy for a woman to climb the ranks. Speaking based from observation, by the way, not facts. I cannot speak for a woman in the shoes that has been in the corporate world, because I still believe, or I still know that there is a challenge for a woman in the corporate space when it comes not necessarily the competition, but that kind of discrimination because you're a woman. And sometimes they don't hire you based on merit. Someone will hire you because they think that you're supposed to offer something else aside from what is in your head. And but try to see how you can leverage on this wave, because there are several funds that women have that you can just go and access a loan very easily if you're into loans and you know the nitty gritties of the finances around it. Don't just indulge into loans without having a proper guide on how this finances is going to be spent or how it's going to be repaid. So there is that. I believe there is also an element of PWDs, that is people with disabilities. It's a wave because if you look at it back in time, okay, I can call it a microwave, not really a huge wave that is going to change the whole existence of mankind, but in a way, it's going to change the existence of these minority groups of people. So yeah, there was a back in time where these groups of people were discriminated when it came to the workplaces, and now we are seeing a little bit of surge, a little bit of people trying to campaign for their cause. And if you're a person under that category, then it's something to consider. How can you capitalize on that wave? Let's talk of also youth empowerment, though it's also a challenge navigating that space as a youth, especially when it comes to employment and whatnot. But when you see something that really advocates for youth, take it as a way, ride it, see how you can benefit out of it. And it's not, you're not only doing it for your own benefit, but for the betterment of the society at large. And something to consider actually under this is the scholarship opportunities that are out there, because it reaches a certain level whereby you hear or you see that past a certain age you cannot apply for a master scholarship. Most of the time it's 35. So if you're anywhere below 35, try to see how you can secure a scholarship under that youth empowerment motive. There is also AI and machine learning, which has really permeated, and it's going to be the cornerstone of this age, the intelligent age. So try to find a way, if you're into coding, if you're into technology, how you can leverage AI, how you can be a thought leader in machine learning in the space that you are currently in. And most people normally think that this new revolution, the intelligence age, is going to be beneficiary to only those people that are in STEM, the technical subjects, the engineers and whatnot. But that's not true. Yes, perhaps you might need a little bit of technical expertise, or rather some technological knowledge when it comes to that. because we are talking about how you can leverage AI. So, assuming you're in the field of political science, talk of how you can leverage AI. Maybe is it in law, trying to make the constitution available to everyone. You don't really need to have technical knowledge, but you can have that business acumen. And that's what also we advocate in this podcast, being able to navigate the business space and trying to start your own business and making it flourish. So you don't need to have the technical expertise, but if you have that little bit of leadership, you can find your friends that are in that space. And with your idea in the space that you are in, you can create something whereby you're the one spearheading because you know where this can go. Yeah. I think that one was a mouthful, what I've given you up to this point. So let me try to find a way to conclude on this. So there are three things that happens during a wave, before a wave, during a wave, and after the wave. So before a wave, most of the time there is normally doubt. For example, when Bitcoin was coming, was it in 2009? I don't even know the figures. There were people that were very hesitant. You'd find someone selling. I know of one that sold their Bitcoin for a pizza, and now the owner that held on to it is sort of a billionaire or something. But you could not tell. You could not tell how this thing is going to be in the next foreseeable future, because there's one thing also with the wave. It's one characteristic that it's very risky. You can drown in it. So your risk tolerance needs to be high when it comes to riding the wave. So you follow a little bit of research, not a little bit, maybe you can delve into a whole lot of research, and following your intuition, what you think about it, and just basically following the trajectory of the world. This one helps you to identify opportunity, analyze it, and then you take action. So during the wave, there is also hesitation. And this is something funny about the waves, that when you snooze, you lose. I think in one episode called Opportunities, if I remember correctly, I alluded this example from the book, what was it called? The Richest Man in Babylon, whereby there was this guy that he was, I'm not really sure if I can recall it correctly, so I'll just paraphrase. So this guy was from a travel a long distance and he was coming back into the town. But in the town, before he entered the city, rather, not the town, the gates were locked because it was somehow late and the gates are normally opened in the morning. And so at that point in time, this guy sees another person with a fleet of sheep. Is it a fleet of sheep? Uh, It's the sheep, the condor, the live one, the animal. A fleet, I think, is the manufactured one that floats on water. So I don't know. How do you call a group of sheep? Man, I've forgotten. I'll cross check. So he sees this guy with sheep and goats, perhaps, if I remember well. And this guy is selling all this at a throwaway price, a very throwaway price. And so there are two people here. I apologize for not giving them a better description or identifiers. So person will just call person A the one selling the sheep, and then person B the one that is to buy because the deal is too good. And so this guy that is selling had to get to his sick wife and is like, I just need to sell this at a throwaway price so that I can go and get to my sick wife who needs me in this cold weather. And the guy was like, nah, we'll have to count the sheep first. So this seller person A was like, okay, why don't you just give me the money and I leave with you my best servants who will count with you in the morning. And if there is anything missing, we can perhaps rectify later. And so the guy is like, no, 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 I'm not making that. That one is a bad investment. That's a bad decision. And so at the end of the day, when when dawn came, when the gates were being opened, the first person that came out of the gate came and bought those sheep. And now this guy seeing that the way the sheep were many, he was like, wow, that's a missed opportunity. And so basically the point of this is you should be able to identify the opportunities that are there, analyze them, and take action. This one you can note from what has been happening here in our streets here in Nairobi. 5 years ago, working on these streets, you could not see anyone with a camera, right? Most cameras, you could take them in the studio, but now there's something that we call street photography. They are everywhere. Somewhere, especially along Windimbingu Street and also Kenyatta Avenue, especially on Sundays, you'll find everyone right there trying to take photos of you at a very cheap price. 100 shillings, 200 at most, and you get a legit picture that you could have taken for even over. I know of a studio rate where I went to take some pictures and they were charging um 500 for a picture, but 1500 if you take five or more. You can see that one is very expensive considering these youths that are charging 100 shillings for street photography, and it's very professional. They have the lights and their cameras are well at the latest tech and all that, the Nikon and the Canons and whatnot. But before this market became saturated, there is one person that just took that leap of faith and say, why don't I try taking pictures here in the streets? And then it became something. And before you knew it, a lot of people were there and it was saturated. So kudos to this first person because I believe he made a lot of profit in that. But now when the market becomes saturated, then you realize that any additional unit of a seller, then every other seller makes a loss or a decrease in their profit. So being able to identify opportunity and you analyze it and you take action. Yeah, so basically I'd say this is a call for you just on top of what you had discussed in the last episode, on top of taking action, being able to identify opportunities is key in taking action. So I'd leave you with an assignment. I know I've never done that before, but this is going to be the first. Why don't you go and take a look at the case studies of men and women that rode a certain wave and for how long did they ride that wave? It is easier to ride a wave that you've learned how to ride because this is about preparing for opportunities and not necessarily identifying opportunities. Most people try to think about, can I really identify a certain opportunity when it comes? Can you be able to look at it in the face and say this is an opportunity? But I also give you a good one. Can you prepare for an opportunity even though you're not able to identify it? Because when, how will I put it? That when opportunity finds you unprepared, it exposes you because there are people that are going to make profit out of that opportunity, but you are not able to because you are unprepared, so it exposes you. But when it finds you prepared, it's going to elevate you. So be able to focus on the trajectory of the world. This is the second assignment. Focus on where the world is headed. Yes, artificial intelligence and information and automation might be one of the key waves that we are looking at in this intelligence age, but there might be something that I've overlooked considering where your field and domain is. It might be in the real estate, it might be in medicine, it might be in the arts and the social sciences. Try to forecast where is this world going to go and how is the leadership and the geopolitics and the demographics of the people, considering also that Africa is the youngest continent in the world with over 60% being the youth. So consider all that and try to make your own assessment. Where is the world going to go and what is going to be needed? And this one is going to measure basically in finding your purpose, and you find your purpose by being a blessing to others by solving problems. So what is the biggest problem that you're going to solve? Is it climate change? Is it blockchain that talks about efficiency, optimization, and all that? Is it security? Talk of cybersecurity and whatnot, or is it leadership? Look at all these domains and find a way that you're going to ride these coming waves. Somehow I'm not really sure that I've done justice to this episode because it can be really be wild, it can be really be long. So perhaps in the future episodes we are going to revisit it with some panelists and whatnot. So it's something that I'm manifesting to be able to host some of these episodes with people that are knowledgeable in several spheres of life. So before then, just take a look into what you've discussed and try to see if it's something that you can implement in your own life. So until we meet again, ladies and gentlemen, it has been nice seeing you, or rather, you listening to this episode. So, and I hope to see you in the next coming episodes. Shalom.